Welcome to Ghostly.
Does Fort Dearborn haunt Chicago?
Ghostly is a podcast that comes out every other week. In each episode, we take a ghost story or paranormal event and look into its complete history. Rebecca then gives us evidence proving that the story is real, and my job is to debate those pieces of evidence and get you, the listener, prepared to vote on if it's real or not. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. And as always, we're your host. I'm Pat, and that's Rebecca.
Hey.
So we have a very special episode because we're coming back to Chicago.
It's the best when we come back to Chicago.
And not only are we coming back to Chicago, we're going to do something we haven't done yet. We're going to do like almost the complete history of Chicago.
Whoa.
Yeah, because when you talk about Fort Dearborn, you're actually talking about the birth of Chicago.
The birth?
The birth, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah, I would say it would be the birth of it. What would you call it?
Well, I don't know. I don't know the history. I'm excited to hear about this. I didn't realize we birthed and that this is the story of the birth.
Yeah, well, and, just because of this, I decided to bring on a special guest because I knew you wouldn't know. So,
right.
But we have a man that does know, the man of Chicago.
Our Chicago man,
our Chicago connection.
There you go.
We have Mondo. Welcome,
here.
Mondo.
Hello.
Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like it's been a while.
The first time recording in Ghostly Studio.
It is.
This one, yeah.
Yeah, this is nice.
This is nice,
This
yeah.
is real nice.
It's a step up, I think, from where we were.
It's a little smaller, but
A little smaller, but a little nicer.
Yeah,
I don't know.
definitely is nicer, I would say. It's home. Okay, speaking of home, we have Fort Dearborn. So what do you guys know about Fort Dearborn before we begin? What is like the first thing that comes to mind?
To me, I'm just gonna I've done some research now, before this episode. So, but just like before that, when you were like, we should do an episode on Fort Dearborn, it's just some sort of vague thing of like, well, I know what a fort is. I've heard of Fort Dearborn. I've heard of the famous Fort Dearborn massacre or the Battle of Fort Dearborn. Like I've heard of these things, and then that's it. That's where my brain stops.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure we were taught some of this in school, but yeah, not really.
All right. Well, what about you, Mondo? What are your thoughts about Fort Dearborn? Before I said we were going to come up with the episode for this.
Okay. Yeah. So prior to just whenever I think of Fort Dearborn, I just think it was right there at the mouth of Lake Michigan and the Chicago River. And that was before they kind of, at that time they had, the river actually took a different angle and twist and went out to the river. Out to Lake Michigan. And, I just know they were attacked and a lot of people died.
Yeah, but it's like when we say that, we make it seem like they're the victims, really. But I think we might paint a different picture today. That
there were a lot of victims.
There's a lot of victims. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
On both sides.
On both sides. It's a complicated issue, though.
It is, definitely.
Definitely some bad stuff, though.
But speaking of complicated issues, we do have some shout-outs today. And,
I don't know. All right.
That's my segue into that. There's two ways to get a shout-out on Ghostly. Mondo, do you know what one of them is?
It costs money.
There you
Maybe
go.
like Patreon.
There you
Patreon.
go. I was just going to say, if you give us money, you're going to get a shout-out, right? Like
and the other way is free, though.
It
you
is
can
free.
Leave us a 5-star review or any review.
I was
on
just gonna say,
an Apple podcast. Yeah, and I said that, and we will read any and all reviews.
I was just going to say that part. Yes.
Yeah, we will.
Any and all, good or bad.
Yeah.
Good or
so
bad.
we do have both of these this time.
We do.
We have a new Patreon. Her name is Karen. Welcome, Karen. Thank you so much. We really appreciate
Thank you so much,
that.
Karen. It's great. We're so excited to have you.
Yeah. Do you want to read our review?
Sure, I can read our review.
You have to do it in an Australian accent, though, right?
Well, I can't do an
You do an Australian accent,
Australian.
Maybe a little.
Go for it. You can read it then.
Okay.
It starts.
This is from
I don't know if you can read it on the
Humbert.
paper.
Humbert, and he said he gave 5 stars, and he said it was thought-provoking, and he's from Australia.
Or she. We don't know.
He or she, yeah.
Well, I hope I do it justice then.
Yeah,
I'm sorry if I don't. Okay. Interesting format that delves into paranormal historical characters, events and places, and debates on the stories and facts on each subject. We'd love to hear Rebecca and Pat talk about the Lizzie Borden mystery.
Yeah, it was a good job, but
I think that might have been a little British, but that's what would happen if I did it too.
But the Lizzie Borden thing, that would be awesome.
Definitely one of the ones on our list.
I think we've talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
we have not. We've not talked about it on air, but we've taled about doing an episode on that.
And I just want to mention too, just going back to the Patreon. So excited to have a new Patreon, and we hope you consider joining.
Yeah.
It's easy. Go to ghostlypodcast.com, click on Patreon, and we've got a lot of different tiers to choose from. So whatever fits your budget. And we've been doing extra ghostly.
Yeah.
Pretty
much. Yeah.
We do interviews, we do bonus ghostly episodes, a lot of different stuff going on over there.
We have fun too.
We have a lot of fun.
We play games sometimes.
We read paranormal news. It's a good time. So definitely check it out. All right. So I do have a listener mail.
Okay.
And I have to apologize because this is actually a listener mail I got last year.
Oh, okay.
It hasn't been a full year since I've had it, but it is from 2022. Ooh. Or actually, yeah, it's from 2022. And so I'm really sorry. I don't know where it landed that I missed it. So
better late than never.
Better late than never.
Yeah.
So Nuyad, which we've had before. Okay. That's how he starts. Okay. It has been a very long time since I have brought one of my stories to you two and have Pat give it his silent stink eye. All jokes in love, no need for tears. I was 17 and had my own home that was literally 100 feet from the gates to the town's graveyard.
Oh.
Correctly used, it is in the yard of a church.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Now, I don't remember if it was snowing or raining due to the years, but it was very cold and some form of precipitation was in the air. I went out onto my back porch to have a cigarette. I had been writing songs all night long and decided to take a break at 2:20-ish. As I lit my smoke, I noticed a woman walking through the cemetery and pushing a stroller. Being 2 a.m. and under 40 degrees, 4.4 degrees Celsius for those who are listening.
I like that he does the conversion.
Very nice, thank you. And it being a very small town, it made me worry about the baby's health and the woman's. She was wearing a rather strange dress with what I could only describe as a bonnet on her head.
Oh.
I quickly grabbed my shoes and flashlight that was right there and went out to the graveyard. Now the gate was locked, and when I got there and she was on the far side of the cemetery, a distance which should not have been possible for a person with a stroller to traverse. Okay, so by the time he got there, all of a sudden she was on the other side. And I know this for a fact because as a teen, I was in track and me and my friends ran through there running from the cops before and could not have made that distance. But I digress. When I saw her again, I went straight towards her. But as she passed this large sundial/altar thing, I lost sight of her for what should have been less than 2 seconds and was gone. I spent over 45 minutes out there looking for her and yelling for her. A neighbor called the police, and when I told them about her, they helped me look. But after another 20 or so minutes, we gave up. The police officer told me that this was his 3rd time in 6 months that he got a call about a woman in the cemetery with a stroller. Oh, and another thing. She was wearing what looked like 1800s period dress. Blue or black. I was ready for him to say white. Blue or black with a blue or black bonnet. Oh, and a white apron thin on the front. Yeah.
Probably looked like a pilgrim then.
Maybe. Yeah. And the stroller looked ancient as well. But that is all for now. Keep it ghostly and you two stay amazing.
Aw. Well, thank you so much for that. Yeah, so for me, this makes me think, I don't even know when strollers first became a thing. Were they in the 1800s?
Oh, yeah.
Were they? I don't know. Maybe I've seen some older ones or something.
Let me take that back. A baby carriage was.
Yeah.
But a stroller
with wheels and stuff on it, and
again with wheels, but a baby carriage is the long.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure exactly when strollers came to be, though. I don't know. I gotta look that up. That's really interesting.
I don't know. Anyways, thank you for the story.
Yeah, that was a really good story.
Creepy.
I really liked it.
Yeah, it's good.
And I didn't cry at all during it.
Well, I had a thought. You know what? if it is not a hoax, I mean, if it was to be a hoax, sorry,
right.
I could, and like you said, that maybe they, traversed through there a lot quicker than what he could have on foot.
Right.
Is it possible maybe somebody put like an electric motor inside of a little stroller and they were running or dragged behind it?
Maybe they jumped up into the stroller and just took off.
Exactly.
Okay, this is very elaborate.
Remember I probably would have done.
Remember the Munsters? Remember their car? And then they had the other car that was like just a coffin.
Yeah.
That they would
Dragula.
Yeah, that's what I'm picturing there. Wow.
All right. I don't know what's going on with you guys.
All right.
It was probably real.
So, by the way, if you guys want to have us read your story online, email it to us at info@ghostlypodcast.com or use the contact us form on ghostlypodcast.com. There's another way. And Rebecca, do you know how
I
that is?
I do. Our favorite way is to get actual mail. We love snail mail.
Yeah.
And you can send it to us at P.O. Box number 264, Geneva, Illinois, 60134. Of course, don't worry about remembering all of this.
Yes.
Just go to ghostlypodcast.com. It's all in the footer.
Or message us on Facebook and we'll tell you where it's at.
Exactly. Or Instagram or any of the socials.
On the gram. The
gram. Excuse me.
Okay.
All right. So are you ready for the votes?
Yeah, I've got nothing to lose in this one.
I was just going to say, like, for once, I would hope you're actually, like, okay with doing the polls today.
Yeah. So, wait, before you read that, though, did you listen to the Psychic Duel?
I did.
Okay, and you did not vote, though. I did not see a vote from you.
Yeah.
So, would you like to do a public vote here?
Oh, yeah.
Who do you think won that one? Jacob or Spiros?
I would say Jacob. Not that Hickney guy, or not.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he does sound a lot like Hickney.
Yeah,
I agree.
Friend of Hickney.
Kind of like Nick, too. He
and
kind of
friend
sounds,
of Nick.
Yeah, friend of Nick. But I've never seen them all together in the same room.
Spiros. Yes.
Yeah.
So you would choose Jacob.
Yes.
Yeah.
Spiros, the very bad fortune teller.
Yes.
I believe he was very bad.
Yes. Do you want to remind listeners, in case they didn't listen to the last episode, why they should talk about it, or why they should listen?
Oh, yeah, because Spiros, this guy that we didn't even know, all of a sudden started messaging us like crazy after hearing Jacob Mayfield's prediction episode, saying that he's a better psychic.
Right.
So I had to bring that to Jacob, and Jacob's like, I accept the duel.
Bring it
and
on.
Then we did Greek coffee.
Yes. Spiros got to pick or maybe it was Jacob. They're both Greek.
Jacob got to pick.
He got to pick the weapon or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
When it comes to that. But anyways, it was super fun. And in the end, we asked listeners then, as we just did with Mondo, who was the better fortune teller. And Jacob won with 58.8%, though actually it would now be a slightly higher percentage because Mondo also voted for Jacob. And Spiros was at 41.2%.
You know what? I can't say that I'm disappointed that Spiros lost. I'm a little happy.
And I am
He didn't like me.
I'm just going to say... Oh, no. I just 1 second really quick. I actually think Spiros has a little bit higher percentage than he probably is supposed to have.
Yeah, there was some weird
shady looking votes.
Yeah, there was.
I'm just going to say.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say maybe I had it all wrong. Maybe he was the better fortune teller. Remember, he had the skull and crossbones.
He did. Right? But that was in his cup, though. Oh, yeah.
That he was going to
lose.
Oh,
wow.
So maybe.
So are you changing your vote again, Mondo?
I'm changing my vote. I'm going for Spiros.
Wow.
But he still loses.
He still loses.
He was right. He was totally right.
Oh, my God. Mondo.
All right. Well, I've got a ghost story.
Do you?
I do.
Okay.
All right.
Well, let's hear this ghost story.
Okay.
It's time for a spooky tale from Rebecca.
I just started as a Chicago City bus driver. Chicago. I went really Chicago there.
I'm not allowed to talk during this. So.
Now, I've had a lot of people tell me not to do this job. You get some crazy people riding the bus, especially as a new driver when they put you on the worst routes at the worst times. But I'm a tough guy, and I feel like I can handle myself in most situations. I'm someone most people think twice about before starting something. And I like people. I like driving. I like the city. I'm happy with my decision. At least I think I am. What's making me question things happened 2 nights ago. My route had me in the South Loop Lake area. Now, where we return our buses is pretty close to that line. I had been driving for a while, so I don't know, maybe I was just really tired, but I don't think so. I was pulling into the lot when I saw something that it looked like shadows or wisps of light, a trick of the light. I parked my bus and I just sat looking for a minute to see if it was fog, maybe. But as I focused on it, I realized I was seeing soldiers in old uniforms, and they were floating above the pavement. What was awful is when they started to run around and their faces had this like look of terror. My eyes were glued open, staring. Finally, I shook my head to clear it, and when I looked back, they were all gone. I don't know, maybe I was just seeing things after a long shift, but dang, it was one of the scariest things I'd ever seen. I think the thing that's making me question if I want to keep this job, though, is when I got out of the bus. I saw another guy who must have pulled in shortly before me and was already out in the lot. He turned and looked at me. Never saw him before. And he just said, "Did you see them too?"
Wow. Okay. So how much of this is made up, Rebecca?
I mean, it's a version of a specific story, but I mean, it's supposedly the bus drivers are one of the people that see these ghosts at the site of the Battle of Fort Dearborn.
So, what do you think, Mondo?
We're going to get into it.
Okay.
You want to save it for later?
We will, yeah. We'll save it for later, but we're going to take a break. And when we return, we are going to talk about the history first.
Okay. We are excited to announce a new way you can support Ghostly. Joining us on Patreon.
There are many reasons to become a patron. Not only are you helping Ghostly cover its own cost, but you can
get Ghostly episodes early.
You can get up to 25% off Ghostly gear.
Get a shout out on the next episode.
You can get a priority request for a new episode.
Get more Rebecca's creepy bedtime stories.
And the biggest news, you can get exclusive content with our new show called Ghostly X for the weeks that Ghostly does not have a new episode.
As well as many more cool rewards that we can't wait to share with our patrons.
So please, help us become the podcast that we've always wanted to be. You can sign up by going to ghostlypodcast.com and clicking on the Patreon link on the menu bar.
Facts. From a skeptic point of view. Facts. He presents it all to you. Facts.
All right, so the Pat Facts are sponsored by Tarot by Ta.
Ta is a professional tarot card reader with over 20 years of experience. He reads at numerous public events, private parties, and personal appointments throughout the greater Chicagoland area. He also does his readings worldwide using online services like Zoom.
And Mondo, the best part about Ta is he's #Team Skeptic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so to find out more about Ta, visit and like his Facebook page at facebook.com/tarot by Ta. So let's get into the Pat Facts.
Pat Facts.
Mondo, thank you for your jingle for Pat Facts.
I'm thinking of a new one. Each time I hear that, it's more like, no.
Pat Facts.
I don't know. I mean,
too.
I don't think you could replace.
Okay.
When we play that live, man.
Yeah, people
even
love
people
it.
that don't know it.
Yeah.
They will by the time it's over. So
Nice.
All right, so like most of America, we do not know the history before Europeans settled in this area because almost 100% of our history is written from a European perspective.
yeah, I mean, like there's some stuff out there, but yeah, not really.
But that's how conceited we are as people. It's like, nope, that's it.
History starts when we got here.
Exactly. The party doesn't start till I walk in. Yeah. But in 1673, there was an expedition headed by Louis Joliet and Jacques Marquette. They were the first recorded that crossed what was the Chicago Portage, and they traveled along the Chicago River. Marquette returned in 1674 and camped for a few days near the mouth of the river. He moved to the Portage, where he camped through the winter of 1674 to 1675. That must have been crazy. Could you imagine camping out in Chicago?
In the winter?
In the winter? Yeah.
Near the lake.
Near the lake, too. So you have lake effect and everything. Joliet and Marquette did not report any Native Americans living near the Chicago River area at that time, though.
No, and just really quick, I'm sorry, because I, like, in my brain, I'm like, I feel like I should know what the word portage means. And, like, there's things called Portage Park and, like, whatever. So I just looked it up.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's like there's, like, a whole glacier thing that happened in Chicagoland area.
But it's where two bodies of water meet.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I assume we're talking about the lake and the river.
Yeah, we are. We're talking about, where Mondo had said earlier.
Yeah.
It's right by Lake Michigan meeting the Chicago River.
Yeah. So when we say the portage, like now in my mind, I get what that means.
Yeah, but it's also, that was because of the glacier areas and stuff like that.
Gotcha. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so to be fair, there were actually numerous Native American tribes there. But for some reason, Joliet and Marquette didn't encounter them at these locations. Maybe because they knew better than to camp out by the river and the lake during the winter.
Yeah, right.
In 1682, René Robert Cavalier and Sieur de La Salle had claimed a large territory, including the Chicago area, for France. Two of the de La Salle's men built a stockade at the Portage in the winter of 1682 to 1683. So that might have been the first Fort Dearborn, although it wasn't called Fort Dearborn.
Right. But the concept of having something there. Okay.
In 1763, following defeat in the French and Indian War, the French ceded this area to Great Britain. It became a region within their province of Quebec. And Great Britain later ceded the area to the United States at the end of the American Revolutionary War, but it didn't really take effect right away. The Northwest Territory remained under de facto British control until about 1796.
Gotcha. So they, we won the Civil War, but
nobody was using the land.
We were focused more on the original 13.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah. Following defeat of several Native American tribes in the Northwest Indian War of 1785 to 1795, the Treaty of Greenville was signed between the U.S. and several chiefs at Fort Greenville. Now it's Greenville, Ohio. On August 3rd, 1795. As part of the terms of this treaty, a coalition of Native Americans and frontiermen, known as the Western Confederacy, ceded to the United States large parts of modern-day Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, and Illinois. This included 6 square miles centered from the mouth of the Chicago River.
So we kind of already figured out that that's a good place to have territory, is right by all these waterways.
Yeah, actually, it seems like people thought it was a good place to attack Indians then, too, or Native Americans at that point. So... but yeah, because that's like, why are you building a fort in the middle of the country like that?
Right.
Who's going to be attacking people from within the country?
Sure.
Yeah. A French Jesuit mission, the Mission of the Guardian Angel, was founded somewhere in the vicinity in 1696, but was abandoned around 1700. And the Fox Wars effectively closed the area to Europeans in the first part of the 18th century. All right, the Fox Wars effectively closed the area to Europeans in the first part of the 18th century. The first non-native to settle in the area may have been a trader by the name of Guillory, who might have had a trading post near Wolf Point on the Chicago River around 1778.
Okay. So just really quick too, the Fox Wars, because I was picturing like literally foxes fighting each other. I was like,
no Europeans can come here.
No one can come here because the foxes were fighting. But looking it up though, it actually talks about the French. So okay, anyways, the French were fighting. Not surprising.
French fur trappers.
Yeah, right. Whatever.
And then are fighting back.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
We take your we take your fur. All right.
Sorry, my ancestors are somewhere in here. I think they didn't move down to this way. They're French Canadians, but I don't think they were there at this point. But anyways, they were the French were fighting some Native Americans.
Yeah,
not surprisingly.
So Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable, a French-speaking colonist of African descent, built a prosperous farm and trading post near the mouth of the Chicago River in the 1780s, at a site directly across the river from the future fort.
Which I think is really cool. That and a lot of people think of him as like a
the
founder, yeah. and he was had African descent. So I mean that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
black person starting Chicago. Absolutely.
A settlement developed there, and he is widely regarded as the founder of Chicago.
There you go.
Antony Ouimet is the next recorded resident of Chicago. He claimed to have settled at the mouth of the Chicago River in July of 1790, so right after him.
Okay.
On March 9th, 1803, Henry Dearborn, the Secretary of War, wrote to the Colonel Jean Hamtramck, the commander of Detroit, instructing him to have an officer and 6 men survey the route from Detroit to Chicago. And it made it a preliminary investigation of the situation at Chicago. But think about that. So these people left Detroit, which is about a 5-hour drive from Chicago. Can you imagine these people were walking or taking boats or doing other things like that? I mean, it must have taken forever.
Right.
Yeah. So Captain John Whistler was selected as commandant of the new post and set out with 6 men to complete the survey. The survey completed on July 14th, 1803, and a company of troops set out to make the overland journey from Detroit to Chicago, while Whistler and his family made their way to Chicago on a boat called the Tracy. The troops reached their destination on August 17th, and the thing about the Chicago River at the time, though, is that they would have been unable to get into the Chicago River going from Lake Michigan because there was a huge sandbar that was there. Like Mondo was talking about, they had to redirect the Chicago River.
Oh.
So that was pretty much because of that. So they got out, and there was what they said, 2,000 Native Americans that gathered to see the Tracy, the ship.
Wow.
So when the troops arrived, they decided to build a fort there. Because they're like, there's 2,000 Native Americans here, so we're in trouble. This is
good land. We want it.
Yeah, they wanted that. So they built it out of logs and named it Fort Dearborn after the Secretary of War.
Which is interesting. I always find that weird. Like, we used to have Secretary of War. Now we're like, no.
Yeah.
It's Secretary of Defense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that was...
That's the war.
It's on.
Well, they were looking for wars then.
Yeah.
So there was a fur trader, a guy by the name of John Kinsey, that bought the old DuSable property in 1804 and became the civilian leader of the small settlement that sprung up around the new fort.
By the way, Kinsey, I believe, is a character that's going to come back in our ghost stories.
Ooh. Oh, interesting.
So I'm just dropping a little hint.
Yeah. Well, Kinsey and Whistler didn't exactly see things eye to eye.
Mm-hmm.
Kinsey, being a trader, started trading with the Native Americans in the area that were looking for alcohol.
Oh, jeez. I'm so sorry.
Whistler didn't like that at all. But it doesn't matter because Whistler lost that particular battle and was removed and replaced by a guy named Captain Nathan Heald. Now, if you're doing your math, that brings us to about 1812.
I was not doing my math. Is that okay?
Well, you could do it now, right? Because it's about 1812.
In the 1812. Okay.
So what event happens in 1812, Rebecca?
There was a war.
What was the name of the war?
The War of 1812.
Yeah, there was the War of 1812.
About 1812.
Yeah.
There was a war.
So during the War of 1812, General William Hull ordered that the Fort Dearborn be totally evacuated. And in August of 1814, Captain Heald oversaw the evacuation, but on August 15th, the very next day, the evacuees were ambushed along the trail by about 500 Potawatomi Indians in the Battle of Fort Dearborn, which is now known as. The Potawatomi captured Heald and his wife, Rebecca, spelt differently than you,
Yep.
with a K in there.
The biblical way.
Yeah, and ransomed them to the British. Of the 148 soldiers, women and children who evacuated the fort, 86 were killed in the ambush. The Potawatomi burned the fort to the ground the next day.
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting. There's a lot of. I read some details about this. There's some good research people have done, and there's a lot of stuff out there. I mean, like there's some there. So eventually, someone who was the son or grandson of a Potawatomi that was in the battle, did record his thoughts. Like he was going to write a whole book, but he died before he could write it.
Oh.
But basically, and now I saw that this was in a lot of the histories that basically Held or Healed had promised the Potawatomi that he was going to let them have the fort and all the stuff in it. And because we were aligned with some Indian tribes, and the French were aligned, or the 1812, the British. Sorry, we're fighting the British in that one. There's too many countries trying to fight over this land. But anyways, and then some tribes were aligned with the British, right? So we did have some, Native American friends, I guess, whatever, in Chicago. But anyways, he said, "Oh, I'll leave this for you," but then he didn't. They destroyed the food, they destroyed the alcohol, and they destroyed the ammunition.
They destroyed the alcohol?
No, and that was a big part of it, is that they specifically were like, we're not leaving
that's when you've
liquor.
Gone too far.
Exactly. So it's kind of one of those things like, no, it's not okay it's certainly not okay that they killed kids. Like, that was bad.
Yeah.
But like people were kind of like, it wasn't like they weren't provoked. Like,
but you have to understand that this has been building up though, over time.
Exactly.
Because that's why we built the fort there.
Right.
Was because, we saw a huge population of Native Americans and we wanted this land.
Right.
So we built this to pretty much say, no, we're in control of this because you can't get through our forces here.
Right.
But they did.
And actually, if they would have been okay, if they had if they had stayed instead of evacuated, because you can kind of, buckle in and just, even though there's more of them than you can kind of, I don't know. That's what I read anyways. They thought they might have been okay if they had just stayed, but they didn't.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Mondo?
It's, you don't do that to them. I mean, it's going to make people angry for one, and I mean, they probably went in there and they were like, they left us with nothing.
No booze.
No booze at all.
Right. Well, and I guess there was like a guy who had been a friend to them, but was part of the Potawatomi, and he came the night before or that morning or something, and was basically gave back his friendship token. And he was like, "I'm really sorry." He was sorry. He was like, but unfortunately, my tribe basically has said, because you've done this, we can't be friends anymore. But I mean, I'm obviously didn't say that, but
give back his friendship bracelet.
Yeah, basically. So they knew there was that they shouldn't leave, but because they had destroyed all of their extra food and all of their liquor and all of their munitions, they really couldn't stay anymore. So they had to go. And so they tried to do this kind of weird route to get to Indiana with this on the sand. Yeah. Anyways. It's crazy.
Yeah. Following the war, though, a second Fort Dearborn was built, or maybe a third now, if you're doing your math
right.
That.
Oh, because they burned it to
the ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
I missed that part. Sorry.
Yeah. They burnt it totally to the ground. And this was built in
with
1816.
The spilled liquor, I'm sure, as part of the flames.
1816. So it took four years for them to do it, but this time they decided to double build it.
Ooh.
So I mean, at least they put double walls there.
Oh, so I was assuming you meant they doubled the size.
No, they just double walled it.
They just double walled it.
Yeah, they're not getting in anymore.
Okay.
So, and that'll secure this area, right? So the American forces garrisoned the fort until 1823, when peace with the Native Americans led the garrison to be deemed redundant.
Peace meaning?
Temporary peace.
Exactly. Okay.
This temporary abandonment lasted until 1828, when it was re-garrisoned following the outbreak of war with the Winnebago Indians.
All I can think of with Garrison is Mr. Garrison.
Yeah, right?
From South Park.
In her 1856 memoir, Wow Bun, Juliet Kinsey described the fort as it appeared on her arrival in Chicago in 1831.
The fort was enclosed by high pickets with bastions at the alternate angles. Large gates opened to the north and south, and there were small portions here and there for the accommodation of inmates. Beyond the, I'm assuming they don't mean like prisoners.
No.
Just like the people
Just
that
people
live
live
there.
there, yeah.
Beyond the parade ground, which extended south of the pickets, there were the company gardens, well filled with currant bushes and young fruit trees. The fort stood at what might be naturally, The fort stood at what might naturally be supposed to be the mouth of the river. Yet it was not so, for in these days, the latter took a turn, sweeping round the promontory on which the fort was built, towards the south, and joined the lake about a half-mile below.
Yeah, so that's even talking about the lake being funky there.
Yeah, like it turned, I mean, because, so help me, y'all, remind me of the Chicago thing.
Y'all.
I'm just going southern. No. Like at first, right, though, it was that the lake went into the river, and then we switched it to have the river go into the lake. Is that how we have it now?
Well, Mondo's boated this thing.
I mean, I've gone through it, but help me remember.
Yeah, the river was actually feeding into Lake Michigan first.
Oh,
So
right.
That's why we switched it because of the cholera outbreaks
Yeah,
and
right,
all the
'cause
waste
the
that went
river-
out
And also,
there.
we couldn't dye it green then if it was like that. So,
But I think, right, but at this point, the whole thing too is that the river also, like, it bent and it didn't join into the lake at the same place that it does now. Like, it was like going,
yeah.
it was, yeah.
Sort
there
of
was
a big-
sand and
maybe
stuff.
an S.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Something like
snaked
that.
around.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But you want to tell us about your experience going through the Chicago River into Lake Michigan?
It was horrible.
It was horrible.
No.
Yeah, it was horrible. I've stood above the river, and I mean, I've looked down, and it has a little bit of an odor, especially if you're a little south of downtown. But when you're 2 feet above the water in a little boat going through there, I mean, it's horrible. It just smells like sewage. And
there's some huge boats going through there.
oh
too.
yeah, they fly through there. You're
Yeah.
not supposed to go more than 5 miles an hour. I'm going to try and do the right thing and go through there real slow. And boats are just flying through, which kick up the waves, and we're getting splashed with this water, and it's disgusting.
disgusting water.
And then we noticed the little signs that are only visible to people on the river, and it just shows like a little hand with like a drop hitting the hand, and there's a missing chunk out of the hand.
Oh no!
Like, it's-
What?
Yeah,
It's toxic?
Don't let the water get on your skin.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
And as we got closer to downtown, we saw a boat that was from Michigan that was docked, and it was like one of the double-decker boats. And these young guys were on top of the boat wearing life vests, doing backflips and diving in the water.
Oh.
And after we
And they disintegrated instantly.
That's what my son said. He said, I just pictured the guy was going to hit the water and just...
Wow.
So this is in the river we're talking
Yeah.
about,
Yes.
not the lake.
We were getting
the lake
close.
is beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, and it's interesting because I've watched. There's like a tour guy in Chicago that does the. You watched him like on Channel 11.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jeffrey Bear.
And he did a whole like river tour, and he mentioned nothing about that. But obviously, there's no smell-o-vision, so he must have been.
Well, also they keep
Grinning
like
and bearing.
increasing the water level and decreasing it
Yeah.
as you go through like the ports and stuff, right? So then you like constantly are in different spots.
It's true. Yeah, because
Heights,
that's
you know?
how they reverse the flow is they basically made it into a bunch of stairs, like
Oh.
steps, so that they can get the water to flow in that direction. So
Because I've gone through the locks to get out to the lake, and then coming back, but never more than that first step.
Yeah.
Interesting. Sorry, we're
It's okay.
deviating
Yeah.
into the river, but it's a big thing that people know about Chicago, so I wanted to.
can I make
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
last mention?
Yeah.
I wonder if Chunkosaurus was around at that time.
Chunkosaurus is a new thing that has come about in Chicago. It is a giant snapping turtle that was found on the Chicago River, which is very interesting because that means the Chicago River is actually becoming a spot where wildlife can inhabit it.
It's a lot cleaner now.
Yeah.
Like they've done a lot of work on it, and I know it was really cool. It's really cool if you just type in Chunkosaurus.
I just picture some little kid during the Fort Dearborn massacre had this little thing in his hand, and he's like, "Come on, Chunky, we gotta get out of here. Go swim for your life." And
that was it. Yeah,
and then 200 years later.
So
it is turtles, though. Not impossible.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The fort was closed briefly before the Black Hawk War of 1832, and by 1837, the fort was being used by the Superintendent of Harbor Works. In 1837, the fort and its reserve, including part of the land that became Grant Park, was deeded to the city by the federal government. In 1855, part of the fort was demolished so that the south bank of the Chicago River could be dredged, straightening the bend in the river and widening it at this point by almost 150 feet.
Oh, wow.
So imagine how narrow it was then.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking,
Because it's not huge now. It's not like you look at it and go, that's a huge river. It's like...
I mean, it's a good-sized river, but it's decent, not. It's not like the Mississippi or something.
No.
I mean...
Well, at some points, it's the same size, but... Anyways.
Not around here.
Yeah. In 1857, a fire destroyed nearly all the remaining buildings in the fort, and the remaining blockhouse and few surviving buildings were destroyed in the Great Chicago Fire of 1871.
Okay.
So, going back to the Great Chicago Fires, this is probably where we started our history of Chicago.
Yeah,
last.
right?
We've taken it back pretty far. The fort was located at what would be modern day called like the Loop of Chicago, I would say.
Yeah.
Which is our downtown area. The southern perimeter would have touched Wacker Drive and Michigan Avenue. That's like by Billy Goat's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Merchandise Mart. That whole
Billy Goat's
area.
is a Chicago staple. It's, cheeseburger on Saturday Night Live, if you're old enough to know that. If not, don't worry about it. It's got really good hamburgers, though. Part of the fort outlined it's marked by plaques and a line embedded on the sidewalk and road near Michigan Avenue Bridge and Wacker Drive. A few boards from the old fort were retained and are now in the Chicago History Museum in Lincoln Park, which we've heard that's haunted.
Yes. Yeah. So I've never noticed these plaques. I don't know why.
I've noticed the one on the building.
Yeah, but supposedly there's it outlines the original.
Yeah.
Like square or whatever.
I saw the South Perimeter one. That's what I saw. On March 5th, 1899, the Chicago Tribune publicized a Chicago Historical Society replica of the original fort.
Oh.
And again, in 1933, at the Century of Progress expedition, a detailed replica of Fort Dearborn was erected as a fair exhibit. And as part of the celebration, both the United States 1-cent postage stamp and a souvenir sheet containing 25 of the stamps were issued showing the fort. The individual stamps and sheets were reprinted when Postmaster General James A. Farley gave imperforated, so together, like a big sheet of them, examples of these and other samples to his friends. And because of the ensuing public outcry, millions of copies of Farley's Fowlies were printed and sold. So here starts all the problems in Chicago with all of our corrupt politicians doing all these things. It started with stamps in the 1930s.
I just gave them away.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't help it that they sold it for money.
Oh, we know it started before then, but yes.
In 1939, the Chicago City Council added a fourth star to the city flag to represent Fort Dearborn. This star is depicted as the leftmost or first star of the flag. So without looking, guys, do you know what the other three stars stand for?
Oh, Chicago Fire?
Yep, that's one of them.
Okay. I'm out.
So each star stands for an event in Chicago's history. From left to right, they represent the following. So you have Fort Dearborn, and then you said the Great Chicago Fire. What else do we have? Mondo, you want to guess?
Pizza.
Pizza? No, not pizza. No, close though.
Well, I'm thinking of the White City.
No, the World's Columbian Expedition of 1893 is the third one.
Okay.
So what's the fourth, Mondo?
Deep dish pizza.
No. There's another
Italian beef.
the 1933 expedition. Yeah. So that's what the four stars of the Chicago flag symbolize. The site of the fort was designated Chicago landmark on September 15th, 1971.
Okay,
And
jeez.
yeah,
We've made it to Chicago.
It is the heart of Chicago, though.
Yeah.
I was just thinking when you had mentioned too about the stamps and being sold for money, that was probably his defense. Trading stamps.
Yeah, trading.
I didn't know they were going to sell for money.
I just traded them.
Would trade them for more stamps.
Yeah, exactly.
Trading stamps were born.
Nice.
Wow, it really does feel like it's the story of the city.
Yeah, except we didn't get into the stinking onion part of it, though.
Oh,
Chicago.
Yeah, that's what Chicago is named after, a stinking onion.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And the accent too, because they're like, no, I ain't calling it no Chicago. Chicago.
It's Chicago, okay? Chicago.
That was great, guys.
Have a sandwich. You're in Chicago.
No, okay, but it's interesting though to think. Like when I think of Chicago, I don't think of a fort.
No.
You know what I mean? Like there's not like a military presence that I think of for the city, but for a huge portion of the time, up until the 1850s?
Yeah.
There was a fort.
Well, actually, so this started me thinking about, we've done other episodes like St. James of Kelsag, and there was a fort there. And I was always like, why is there just this random fort in the woods there? Because that's like the woods, right? And
yeah,
it's because of this is how we were going to take over from Native Americans. Build forts.
Yeah, defend and and take over. Yeah, it's weird.
Whether it was the French, the English, or the Americans, we all did it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I just don't think of it. Like I just imagine living in the city.
Yeah.
And then you're like, yep. And there's the military and they have fruit trees there.
Yeah. Now that's another thing that surprised me is the fruit trees.
Well, I guess, you want to protect those.
Yeah. But what fruit trees are growing in the city though? Nothing.
Well, not now, but back then.
Yeah, that's true. But so for me growing up, maybe it was just a South Side thing, but that's, what we all knew about in grammar school was the history of Chicago, and that, this was the history of Chicago was Fort Dearborn.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to take a break, and then I think Rebecca doesn't have any ghost stories this time.
No,
so.
I do. I know we've had you sit through a lot of history, but it's all been good, I hope. But don't worry, we got some ghost stuff too.
All right. We'll be right back. Throughout our time doing Ghostly, we've met a lot of great people. People that don't always fit into our episode schedule. And even when they do, we try to focus on the topic of the episode, and we don't really get a chance to get to know them as a person.
That's why we came up with the idea of Ghostly X. Ghostly X will come out on the weeks when there is no regular Ghostly episode.
And it'll have interviews with amazing people and listener feedback from previous episodes. We also can't wait to talk about the paranormal in the news.
We're very proud of this project, and we can't wait to share it with you.
Ghostly X is a Patreon exclusive. You can start listening now by going to ghostlypodcast.com and clicking on the Patreon link in the menu bar to become a patron and help support Ghostly by listening to our brand new show.
All right, we're back. You want some ghost stories?
Yeah, I guess if you have them.
Well, this one, we go pretty far back with this. So again,
How far?
Well, back to, the fort itself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But we're actually going to go to that Battle of Fort Dearborn first.
Oh, okay.
Because that is probably the most, the best known, ghosty stuff.
You've called it the massacre.
It's also called so here's the thing. For a long time, it was called the Fort Dearborn Massacre.
Yes.
But once more history came out, kind of talking about how we basically, of course, went back on our stuff with the the tribe, with the Potawatomi.
But also, we've been like poking at them that whole time.
Well, it's like when a bunch of white people are killed, we call it a massacre. When a bunch of Indians are killed, it's called a battle, or what's called a whatever. So basically, they just people call it the Battle of Fort Dearborn. But you'll see both. And again, even the member I was talking about, there was a guy who was the son or nephew, whatever, of somebody that fought there. He even said, though, too, there was like one guy, I guess, that's the one that went really crazy and killed the kids. And like he was ostracized.
He was the Anakin.
Yeah, basically. And like he was like ostracized from the tribe after that, because it was just, that was not what they normally would do. But so I mean, it's not like there were no heroes, let's say that. I mean, I'm sure there were some heroes, but like in general, but anyways, so here's the thing. After everything happened, they just left the bodies. Yeah. Right? Like obviously they didn't go.
What are you gonna do with them?
Right. Like I mean, they had their prisoners, they left. So then it wasn't until like 1816, right, that they came back to rebuild or something.
And people like might not be able to picture this, but anybody that's ever been to like the Indiana Dunes and stuff like that, that's what it looked like here.
Yes, it was sand.
It was just sand.
Dunes. And they were hiding behind the dunes.
And dunes are just these large mounds of sand.
They are so difficult to walk up and down.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. So it wasn't until they came back that they found the skeletons just in the sand.
Wow.
Like right where things had been left.
Sounds like a song.
Yeah. But it wasn't until there was more construction in the 1980s that there started to be more ghost sightings. Oh. So basically, they were doing construction in that area, and they found human bones in the area of 16th Street and Indiana Avenue. Do you guys know where that is?
Kind of. South side. It's
kind of like just very south, I think.
Well, 16 would be 1600 south. So...
And Indiana, I don't know where Indiana, but like it's got to be close to.
Wouldn't that be close to the old buddy guys?
Pretty close to that. Yeah. Indiana is actually one block east of Michigan.
Yeah. That would make sense.
And I would say 16th is near the railroad tracks. It's about where Mayor Daley lived.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds about right. Yeah. So kind of just south of downtown.
Nobody knows what we're talking about, though. We're like, I know where Mayor Daley lived. Oh yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, perfect sense. Yeah. Everybody just in California that's listening to this knows exactly what we're talking about.
We're really close to the lake, though.
Yeah.
Actually, right where across the railroad tracks from Soldier Field, where the Bears play. So
there you go.
Yeah. Anybody watches football sees the aerial view. Just look a little to the left.
That's what we're talking about.
The spot.
That's where all those people died.
Yes. Yeah. So they first assumed that the bones belonged to victims of a chloria. Wait, we say that word wrong. I can't remember. Is that right? Cholera. Yeah. I say that every time. I don't know why I get weird with that. I know that, and I say that in my head, but I say it wrong when I see the word. Thank you.
Cholera.
Mondo.
Yeah.
Cholera epidemic. Oh, jeez. That took place in the 1840s, but they studied and dated the remains, and they realized that they were closer to the early 1800s. So they realized that they were the victims of the battle massacre, right? So they did rebury them elsewhere, but since they found them, people started to notice ghost-like figures who were wearing pioneer clothing and outdated military uniforms. Those poor souls were found wandering around an empty lot that was just north of 16th Street. The ghosts were supposedly running around in terror and silently screaming. And this is where my story comes from. Bus drivers returning their buses to the garage at night were the ones who witnessed them the most.
Wow. Well, it could have been worse. They could have been on the north side. That would have been even worse. Or like Meg's Field or something, that would have been horrible.
That's a reference.
Yeah.
Meg's Field. All right. So there you go. That's the ghost story. Basically, and nowadays it's called the Battle of Fort Dearborn Park or something, Memorial
sounds
Park
lovely.
or something like that, or Fort Dearborn Memorial Park. I don't know, whatever. And there is a memorial like statue there. For a while there was a tree, but then that got blown down in a storm or something. But anyway, so that's kind of it's been a lot. It's been a park. It's been all these different things. But supposedly they're like floating there.
Wow. So what do you think, Mondo?
I'll stay away from that area if I can, but no. I don't know if the bus drivers saw it. I mean, but they're bringing their buses home late at night.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know.
It's late at night. I mean, that's some of the, like your eyes plays tricks on you when you're out there in the night.
Going to say if they're like me, that's how I am. Like once I start getting tired, my mind shuts down and yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know though. I mean, I think it seems not crazy.
Not reasonable.
Not unreasonable to think that disturbed bones, like they were maybe okay, but then once they got dug up, it was kind of disturbing things. And who knows, they probably didn't get all the bones.
There were skeletons in the sand.
They probably did not get all of them. And so now some people are like half buried in one place and half in another and very disturbed.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go 0 on this one.
You're going 0?
Yeah. What do you got, Mondo?
The bus driver saw it, but it's late at night. Like I said, got to give them something though.
You do?
I mean, because I believe that the bus garage was if it's in that vicinity, I mean, why are they seeing it there? And they didn't see it somewhere else. I'm sure they were tired.
Why didn't they see it in Brighton Park?
Yeah, they were like 4
because
blocks
this
away.
is where the haunted is. Exactly.
Yeah, good point, Pat.
Yeah.
Oh, no, wait, I didn't make that point. What are you talking about? So what are you giving it, Mondo? You're writing it down, too.
He's thinking about it.
He's doing some math here. He's giving it a 4.
4. Wow. All right.
Wow. Solid 4.
I could go higher. Pat almost convinced. You know what? That thing that you said? Yeah. Why aren't
you're going 10 now?
We're going 6.
6. Wow.
I was going to go 6. So I agree with the 6. Wow. I think there's enough there to push it into like a possible belief, but it's not like an 8. You know what I mean? I'm not quite there.
No, it's not an 8. Definitely not
but
an 8.
A 6 I think is a fair.
So if it's score. 6, it could be lower than that too. It could be like a 3 or...
No.
Okay, let's go to the next piece.
All right. So the next one is just talking about the site of the fort itself.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where it gets a little tricky because that whole area is also where the Easter Island, the Eastland disaster was.
It's close-ish.
Close, right?
Yeah.
So it's not ish. It's really not that far. Like that's the whole kind of area there. So I wonder sometimes how much.
No, this is more like, so the problem that I have with a lot of this is that it's been built up so much over the years that it's even hard for me to imagine what it would have looked like once upon a time, except to think of like the sand dunes. Because think about it, like there's like feet and feet that it's been built up.
Right.
Because that's where the bridge is at.
Right. So it was, down below. But I mean, yes. Yeah. But the fort itself is back over by that area. Yeah. Where the river bends or whatever.
But again, it's like built up tremendously there.
So anyways, there were fires. People died supposedly in the fire at the fort. And so supposedly passersby on the Michigan Avenue Bridge will be startled to see soldiers marching there. So they're dressed in old-fashioned military clothes and they disappear after appearing for only a few moments. This sounds very similar, though, to a lot of ghost sightings in that same area that we had for the the Eastland disaster. So, I mean, but they're soldiers. So I guess that's why people associate it with the fort.
Yeah, because there wouldn't have been any deaths of soldiers in the Eastland disaster.
Yeah, exactly. So
I don't know, I'm going to let Mondo go first on this one because you're our guest.
Okay. Well, just to kind of give a reference of the area, it's not far from Navy Pier, which used to bring soldiers there all the time, sailors, soldiers, and they would board the boats, come and go. And it's I've been downtown many times and seen all types of military men walking across the bridges, but they're in modern clothes.
Yeah.
So
True.
let's just say it's true and that they are seeing these figures that were military that just disappeared. It may have nothing to do with the fort. They might be seeing World War II survivors coming home that are happy to be home or something like that. World War I,
Yeah.
War of
like that.
1812.
Yeah. Man, you're
No, I'm not trying to
ones.
prove you.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to
Well, we
prove
were
your
just
point.
talking about the War of
I was
1812
actually-
ghosts. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just going to go really low, but you just
Oh,
changed that.
man. Oh.
Every time.
I was going to give it a 0.
What? You were?
Yeah, because of that.
So
Because
you're going to give it a 1 now then?
I'm going to give it a 6.
What? A 6? How do you jump up that high? I did it.
You persuaded me.
Okay, well,
So, but now I'm okay. So are we talking more like Tribune Tower area?
Yes, exactly,
Okay,
right
now I
there.
feel better. So the Eastland disaster is just it's a few blocks from there, but it's not super far.
yeah, but that's on Lake Michigan though too. No, that's off the Chicago River.
It's off the
yeah.
river. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
so
just a
that's
few blocks,
that is close. Yeah,
west. But yeah. Anyways, sorry.
yeah.
Jeez.
So
If you don't love Chicago, this episode, I don't know. It's gonna be a little tricky for you.
yeah.
Get a map. Get a map out. You'll be good to go.
Well, we have 2 big bodies of water.
It's also
we
by
have
Trump
Lake
Tower.
Michigan,
If we're
and
gonna be fair
we
about
have
it.
yeah. Well, Trump Tower is a little bit more in, but
That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, we have 2 big bodies of water here. Lake Michigan is the one that we always refer to. That's like where our beaches are at.
Right. I mean,
And
when
then
we
the
say a
Chicago
lake,
River.
like you can't see the other side really. I mean, like you can, but not really.
No, not of Lake Michigan, but
No.
of the river you can.
The river, absolutely you can.
And we dye the river green for St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
It's like a tradition for us and stuff. And when I say we, not me, I don't go there and dye it.
I think
know.
you do.
No. Anyways,
What do you think about these ghost soldiers?
So I'm having a difficult time because there's no real evidence. This is just stories of stuff. I don't see any real hardcore evidence like pictures or anything like that. I'm going to go 1 on this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I am gonna go, and I'm gonna go 6 again. It doesn't seem, it's not super likely, but I'm sure there's been too many soldiers and things going on there. There's no way there's not something there. Yeah.
What
All
do
right.
you got, Mondo?
I was just thinking, if I took a picture and showed it to you and you said, there's nobody there, I would say, exactly. He was 2 seconds before I took the picture that I'm showing you.
It doesn't
Would
count.
that help?
It doesn't. No, it doesn't
It
count.
wouldn't convince you?
No.
All right. I've
No.
got one more.
Okay.
Okay.
One more. Okay.
And this is, again, we're connecting back to other episodes here. We're going back to Excalibur.
Whoa.
Ooh.
So we've
Which
done
Mondo was on for the Excalibur
Yeah.
episode.
So we've talked about Excalibur. It's this whole nightclub that was also like the Chicago history.
And I've been to Excalibur with Mondo too.
back when you were young and
Probably
cool.
like the first time I ever went there was with Mondo.
There
actually.
you go. All right. Here's the thing. So this is, it's associated with Fort Dearborn, but we're not necessarily talking about like a soldier.
Okay.
And this is, remember I said
Yeah.
that name,
Kinsey.
Kinsey, is going to come back. So here we go. So basically, this is it was a club. I don't know what it is now. I think it probably still is a club of some sort, but I'm not hip enough to know what it's called now. But there are a lot of ghost sightings at Excalibur. So supposedly there is a ghostly ding, ding, ding figure that goes through the halls and up the stairs. Bartenders at the club have also complained that some invisible person keeps breaking all the glasses behind the bar. So there's a lot of speculation about who this ghost guy is. And one of the guesses is a guy named John Lalime or Lalime. I don't know. Lalime was supposedly killed by Chicago's first white settler, John Kinsey.
Well, yeah, but he wasn't the first. Well, yeah, he was just a fur trader in the area. But,
Like a settler as opposed to like a soldier
Yeah,
or, whatever, I guess is what they say. So Kinsey fought with Lalime over the ownership of his cabin. This house was located directly across the river from Fort Dearborn. After Kinsey killed Lalime, he buried him in the front yard of the cabin.
As one would do.
As one would do. It's like
Yeah.
basically like, I want your cabin.
Yeah.
Bam, bam. And then I'm just going to bury you in my
Because
front
I'm
yard.
going to show everybody that you don't mess with me. I'd bury you in the front yard.
Exactly.
Not the backyard, the front
yard. So supposedly, though, the bones didn't stay there, though. They were later dug up and given to the Chicago Historical Society. And as we know, at one point, the Chicago Historical Society was located in the same place where Excalibur is today. Or, well, that building that had Excalibur at one point. Some people familiar with the story believe that Lalime wants his bones returned to the grave on the property he claimed was his. But he's not going to get his wish because the Historical Society building burned to the ground during the Great Chicago Fire, 1871, and everything was destroyed, including a lot of artifacts and the bones of John Lalime.
Okay.
So there we go. So we got a ghost story of a guy associated. It was right across the street from the fort.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Mondo?
I've actually heard a similar account of Lalime, of him, unless it was a different guy and Kinsey killed that dude.
No.
too.
I bet that this was the same one.
You put Lalime in the coconut. And shake it all up. That's how you do that, right? Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
We all got to start dancing for that too. But I had heard something similar in that he was at the Hard Scrabble farm.
Hard Scrabble farm?
Yes.
Wow.
And that farm, the land eventually, and this goes back to some other episodes.
It sounds like you're playing hardcore Scrabble with somebody at some farm or something.
But it's Hard Scrabble.
Oh,
Hard Scrabble.
Well, and Hard Scrabble's like, it's like you're working hard. Like, this is not the
you have to
easy
push these blocks and stuff to spell out words.
Pushing the block. That's interesting because over there in what was Hard Scrabble, there are lots of giant blocks lining the river.
And they all have little letters on them, and you just have...
Some do, but that's called graffiti. But Hard Scrabble eventually became Bridgeport.
Oh, really? Oh,
wow.
I didn't know that.
And if you're wondering about other bad things that happened, like with Kinsey, do you remember the flood that took place?
He caused the flood?
The river, where the Chicago River's, it was right by the Kinsey Street Bridge.
Wait, are we talking about the Great Flood?
No, we had a flood that where the river started pouring into the downtown buildings.
Oh.
Yeah.
I believe it happened right by Kinsey Bridge.
Wow.
That's where the hole was.
And I wonder, I'm guessing that Kinsey.
Damn that Kinsey.
So from the grave, we're talking about the one in like the 90s or whatever that was. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Great Flood.
Yeah.
Probably plugged up the hole with that guy's body.
Right.
But, but they took the bones. But so maybe there were different bones. Remember I said there was.
That's why I cut my
That's
limes in a
possibly
wedge. Doesn't plug up anything. Then,
okay.
So. Anyways, yeah. So what are your thoughts then on that then?
Well, I know that it's historically documented that he did kill him, and that.
Well, I don't know if it's historically documented that he killed Lalime.
Okay.
It's historically documented that there was a Lalime and there was a Kinsey.
I think we could probably be pretty sure that if he was in the Historical Society, like,
all right. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
You know,
but there could be many things that haunt the Excalibur site and things like that. So
I still think it's guys with big chains and unbuttoned shirts.
Yeah.
That's what haunts that place.
Okay.
Excalibur.
They died of fever.
Yeah.
Saturday Night Fever.
Saturday Night Fever. Yep.
So
absolutely.
I'm going 6.
6.
Nice.
No. You went high on that one.
I'll go 4. I'll give it
4. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, my thoughts are, again, where is the hardcore evidence? Like, these are stories, and these stories are great stories.
Well, we have bartenders talking about people breaking up the glasses, going up and down the stairs, and we did get some reports of that when we were doing Excalibur.
But then we have a hard time distinguishing, is that Excalibur or is that Fort Dearborn, which we're debating Fort Dearborn right now.
Right, but it was a death that happened at Fort Dearborn, so.
But we don't know if this is really the Lalime guy that's haunting that. That's what I'm saying. So, and if there is a haunting, first of all,
I was going to say, so you're
if there is,
there's a haunt, just not sure which. I gotta change my number again. No,
you're going 0 again now. So Lalime, there's no proof that that's him. So there's no proof that this is any connection to Fort Dearborn, if there was a haunting to begin with. So for this particular episode, I'm going to give it a 0. If we were doing the Lime story, I might give it a 2.
Whoa.
But 0 for this one.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give it a 5.
A 5. Okay.
Yeah, because I do think that there is definitely haunted stuff at Excalibur, that whole building. We've heard too many reports. But I think they're making a guess that it's this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But this Kinsey's bad guy. Now I don't like the bridge anymore.
Well, he gave alcohol to Native Americans.
Yeah.
That was not good.
That was not good.
I don't know if he's a bad guy, though. There's streets named after Kinsey.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't like him anymore.
There's also a street named Kilpatrick.
Yeah, it's not
I
good.
hate that street.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a good.
That street is awful.
Don't go on that street.
All right, so what is your overall rating, Mondo? You gave a couple of 6s and a 4.
That's right.
So overall, how haunted do you think this place is, if at all?
You know, the bus thing is big.
It is.
Big?
Yeah, I believe that one.
Okay. So you got to come up with a number. He's going to write it down.
He's calculating things. He's doing some math.
Mathing it up.
Writing some things down.
Yeah.
I'll give it a 7.
7? You went higher than any of the ratings that
when
you
you
gave.
add it all up.
Okay.
When
all
you
right.
add it all up.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm going to go 0 on all of it.
Okay.
Because when I add it all up, I gave 1 1 and 2 zeros.
Okay.
So that averages out. It would be a half if I could, or a third.
But you've decided we can't do halves.
No, I've decided that. We
Okay.
can't do that.
So it's interesting. I wasn't sure where to go with my score. But Mondo here, you got me thinking when you add it all up. I think it's a 7.
7?
Yeah.
Whoa. Wow.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. Okay.
A lot that happened.
Speaking of a lot, Mondo, have you been able to think of a song during this?
I do.
Oh, you do? Okay. All right.
Yes.
Let's hear it.
The whole thing with the Fort Dearborn massacre just reminds me, if Gordon Lightfoot was an American, not from Quebec, which it kind of sort of was just around that time.
Yeah, that's true.
So that makes it right.
This is fitting because, he just passed. So, yeah.
He would have written a song about it.
Yeah. What do you think the song would have went?
Well, it would have started something like this. Somehow you gotta take care when you take all the booze that you said you left there.
That's it.
That's
it. Nice. I like it.
I mean, you know what happens next?
Wow.
Best song.
That's the best song.
It just keeps adding in your mind.
That's the one, when you go to sleep at night. Yep. Gordon haunts me.
So,
Mondo,
do you have anything going on that you want to talk about?
Actually, yeah, I have. I'm starting a YouTube channel. And,
I heard about this.
Yeah,
Tell me about it.
So I got like a 360 cam, and I just wanted to kind of document some different areas. Like I'm going to take my bike through like historic St. Charles and Batavia and things like that, and stop at some key places and just give you a little history lesson.
Maybe even Fort Dearborn one day.
I would. Yeah, definitely. And that way, basically it's kind of for people that like to ride stationary bikes.
Yeah.
I figure
so you could
give
follow
them
along.
like a half-hour ride from one point to another. And then at the end, if they choose, they could stay tuned and get a little history lesson.
That's a cool idea.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And the riding music is all from me.
What?
Yeah.
The Gordon Lightfoot song?
That's so cool.
I should include those in there.
You should, man. You should.
Sneak them in between.
Yeah, a little pet facts or something in there.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's fun, though. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I love the idea, though. That's really cool.
Very
Cool.
So how can they find this then?
So it's called Outdoor Activities 360.
Okay.
That's my YouTube channel.
So they could just look for that then. Do a search on YouTube for that?
Well, keep searching because I have nothing uploaded yet.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of working on that and some music and putting it all
But as
together.
soon as you do, you're going to send it to us and we'll put it on Ghostly then.
Oh,
right?
cool.
Yeah.
Follow up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I will definitely include the Gordon Lightfoot.
Wow. Okay. Ooh. And you don't know when it's going to come either. So just all of a sudden it might.
You'll be watching this video, doing your biking, and then bam.
You might just be riding your bike and then, yeah.
It'll just be in the background there.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
Wow. That brings us to the closing arguments. This is our last chance to convince you to vote our way. We are each given 1 minute of uninterrupted time because we all know that Rebecca likes to cheat at this.
Hey, that's not true.
And we're going to time each other on our cell phones. Mondo, why don't you go first? And Rebecca can time you.
Okay.
And I was going to say, I was just thinking about it. I'm not sure if we have to say cell phone there. I think we could just say phone nowadays.
Whoa.
I think.
Can we?
Because one, I don't think there are too many landlines anymore. But number two, even if I had a landline, I couldn't time anything with it.
Well, you don't know that. They could come out with new technology. This could be something new that only Ghostly has. Our landlines have timers on
I
them.
did actually see a very funny video, and I'm guessing it was a joke, but it was like a younger person, and they were like, has anyone ever thought about having a phone, like one phone in the house that the family could share?
No.
And then like all the Gen Xers were like, oh my God, they're describing a landline. But again, I'm assuming it was a joke. All right. Who's going first?
Mondo's going first,
Mondo's
and I'll
going
time
first.
you.
Are you
ready?
sure? Are you okay going first?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Because, I mean...
You're making him go first this whole time, so I'm just making sure.
Well, because he's our guest.
All right.
I want to give him the opportunity to say these things first.
Okay.
Before I do.
And you persuade him with your own...
I've persuaded him to vote your way, actually, this
I know.
episode.
That's what I'm saying.
So, Mondo, you ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go.
Going. Okay, so the first one, of course, was the drivers, which, I had already kind of talked about. That they were possibly seeing things, but they really only saw them when they got close to there. And, I believe that makes a lot of sense. Why was it just in that area? Why wasn't it in other neighborhoods? You had the soldiers disappearing. I was kind of iffy about that one. But there are a lot of soldiers over there, so I could see people seeing things like that. And then the Kinsey story is definitely documented. And, basically, you had some angry Indians in the first place. So everything would have started that way. It was horrible what happened to those people. And like Rebecca mentioned, there were plenty of Indians that died too. So it was definitely a bad place with a lot of bad activity. So it's haunted.
All right. You had 3 seconds left. Do you want to give that 3 seconds to Rebecca then?
I don't need it. I don't need it.
You can do that
Okay.
now?
No, you can't.
That's a new thing.
No, it's not. No, it's definitely not.
She speaks a lot better than me, so I would probably just next time just say pass. And that way she could have the whole
2
thing.
minutes? No,
No.
wait a second.
You did good. You did good.
I can agree or
All right.
disagree.
Rebecca, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, and go.
Yeah. So, no, okay, first of all, I agree with Mondo. As far as there's a lot of stuff that happened there, no way it's not haunted. And then especially where the battle happened, yeah, it is weird that that's where the one place, right, that the bus drivers would see these things. And to me, it just seems like there was a lot of tragedy. I have also read, I didn't bring it up, but they see the soldiers at the site of the massacre or the battle. And some people will even claim to see Native Americans there too, because obviously some of them died. So it's I don't know. To me, it would be hard to believe that a place that saw a lot of tragedy, had a hard life, bones being dug up and moved, for both the Kinsey guy, Lime, and then also, the soldiers, it equals ghosts.
Haunted.
Yep.
Wow. Oh, you snuck a word in there.
I
You should
still
have
had 3 seconds. I used one of them.
There you go. There you go.
All right. So, yeah, I think I'm ready.
All right. And go.
We're making a lot of assumptions here. We're making an assumption that, first of all, that other bus drivers do not see things in other neighborhoods. What if they do? What if this is an ongoing thing that they understand is something that just happens to bus drivers late at night? We didn't look into that particular part of the evidence. We didn't look in to see if that happens to other ones. So we're making assumptions about that.
I think we would hear about that.
Uninterrupted time.
Sorry.
We're also making an assumption that Lime was angry. Why would he want to go back in the ground where he was killed? So we're making an assumption there. These are all based upon assumptions and only that. Therefore, you have to vote with me. You have to vote no. And we have to be done with this.
We have to?
And that's it.
All right. You had time left.
Choice.
You have no choice but to vote for me. Yeah.
No, you have a choice. You get to choose who you want to vote for. It's okay. Either way.
Yeah.
Just go to ghostlypodcast.com.
But given the evidence, you have no choice. So anyways, I want to thank you so much for listening. Please share us with your friends and family, as word of mouth is our best form of advertisement. Remember to hit that subscribe button. And when we post about Mondo's YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button.
Absolutely.
Send him some ghostly love.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's given us all these tunes to listen to.
Yes.
So we have a bunch of what I would call our producers.
Yes.
They are our VIP Patreons.
Yes.
And we'd like to give them a shout out. So there's Emily,
Alicia,
Carrie,
Becky,
Kim,
Ta,
Ernie,
Marisol,
Shayla,
Cindy,
Kevin,
Nicole,
Darnay,
Jessica,
Sarah,
Linda,
Alice,
Austin,
Aaron,
Hope,
and Candy. So on the next Ghostly, we're going to be talking about the Terrence Inn. Where's that at?
Terrace Inn.
Terrace Inn.
In Petoskey, Michigan.
Wow.
And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to definitely talk to my little brother because I know he lived there at one point. So we'll see.
And that episode will come out on May 31st. So help us God.
Please.
Yeah.
Everything go well.
So Mondo, do you have anything else to add before we sign off here?
Thanks for having me. Show's awesome. And, love being here. I hope everybody likes the episode.
Well, then until next time, stay ghostly.
Bye.